Hi everyone, how are you? We were talking a little bit with Caru. There's Diego, there's Cecilia joining in. And what time is it? Yeah, I think we can go ahead and get started. So one of the things, and the reason why I'm doing this live, is because I want it to be interactive. I want to hear from you. I want to, if you have any questions at any point, if there's anything that you want me to go more in depth, if you have anything that comes up for you, just please, you can send a little chat and we can open up a discussion. And I want you to just ask and participate as much as you can, as you want to. Okay, so we will be talking today about the mind and the power that we have with our mind if we know how to use it, and basically if we know it. So we will talk a little bit about the nervous system, and throughout the weeks I will be building up more and more, giving you more information about the nervous system and how it's part of what we call the mind, because the mind is not only your brain. The mind is more than that. It's this energy flow with information that comes within and from the exterior. Our mind cannot exist independently from others. So there's that connectedness that is also part of our mind. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about relationships and how during these times, why it's particularly important to take care of our mental health, to take care of our mind, and how in difficult moments, there are actually opportunities for us to maybe realize things, recognize things, develop things that we, when things are okay, when things are normal, we just do what we do. But it's when there's chaos, when there's disorganization, that we realize, oh my gosh, this is something that is really getting to me. And it might be opening up stuff that you haven't developed or processed from the past. And it might be telling you, hey, there's some things here that you can work on. So I always tell all my patients, because they come to see me when things are really bad, this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to be better. So what we are living today is also an opportunity for all of us to be more connected with ourselves, to recognize how it is that we connect with others. And in this connection with others, I also add the connection with our planet, because sometimes in this other, we just think of other people. But I think one of the lessons that this pandemic is teaching us is how we are part of a bigger, and part of a planet, and how we have a tremendous impact and how we can change that. Although we are all in the world going through the same thing, it's important to recognize that we're not all on the same boat. We might be on the same ocean, but not on the same boat. Everyone has a different experience, be it socially, what we are living in our communities, in our countries, our own personal experiences, our own relationships, what is happening in our own families. They are all different. So how we process, how we experience this pandemic is different for everyone. So that being said, I want to honor all those differences. And because here we're kind of talking generally, I want to invite you to be very kind with yourself. So if there's anything that I say, or if when we get to do an activity, there's something that doesn't quite feel right, just be kind with yourself, notice and say, you know what, I'm okay, I'm gonna step, and that's perfect. So it's really important for you to take care of yourself and be mindful of that. So what will happen during this hour that we're going to be together? So the idea is that we will talk a little bit. I'll give you some information, and then we will have a little time for a practice, and it's going to be a guided practice. And then towards the end, we will have a discussion. Every time that we have, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, that we have an experience, whatever that is, it's really important to slow it down and chew it to process it. So that's why every time after, either it's even if it's a talk, today we're going to have like a practice, right? An experiential exercise, but it's important to sit down and say, okay, how is this like for me? And give meaning to that. That's really important. So we will have a little time for that discussion. And again, I open, the floor for questions, for comments, but you be kind with yourself and you know how much you want to disclose or not, and that is perfect. Be wherever you are. That is where you need to be. So right now, the pandemic is considered like a pre-traumatic condition. Let me explain a little bit what trauma is, and then we can talk about why this is a particular significant condition and what we need to do to make sure that it doesn't become something bigger in terms of our mental health. So trauma is any experience of a situation that is overwhelming for our nervous system, so that we are unable to have a response. So when we can't process it, when it's too much, our nervous system goes to survival mode. And when our nervous system goes to survival mode, there are certain parts of the brain that are activated and certain chemical reactions that include cortisol, include adrenaline, and those have an impact not only in our brain and our memory, but also in all our bodies, right? So our muscles are ready to fight or they are ready to run. And when we have this state for a prolonged time, it starts to have an impact. It has an impact cognitively. So we might be more absent-minded, we might be forgetting stuff, we might be having issues concentrating. It can come up in our bodies, right? We can have high blood pressure, we can have gastrointestinal issues. It can come up in terms of affect. So we notice intense anxiety, we can have panic attacks, we can be extremely irritable, we can have anger outbursts, we can have depression, sadness, low energy, just difficulty getting doing stuff and finding any meaning. So it's really important for those reasons, because we don't want that to develop. And it also can happen. So we have depression, we have anxiety, and it can also develop into PTSD. And PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder, comes up when, for example, we have recurrent thoughts or feelings, dreams that come up constantly about this stressful event. We have intense reactions, physical reactions, our body gets tense, we have this thing in our chest, we get irritable. So there's a whole series of things that happen when we develop PTSD. And if you think about it, this has been something that's been there, right? In our minds, in our conversations, like it's, hello, how are you? How are you doing? How's this thing affecting you? So we talk about it. And sometimes we talk about it a lot. Sometimes we can be talking about it for hours, just reinforcing in our minds, right? That sense of uncertainty, that fear, and creating more and more stress. That is why this is considered a pre-traumatic conditions. And what happens what happens right now is that we fear physically, be it for ourselves or for someone that we love. You know, maybe we have older parents, maybe we have someone, or we are in this very vulnerable population, right? Diabetes, cancer, Crohn's disease, all these things, you know, that our our protection mechanisms just go down. So it's important to recognize that there's uncertainty and there's fear. There's also the uncertainty and the fear for economically. There's many people that have lost their jobs. There's people that don't know how it's going to be. There's a decrease, you know, for businesses and almost every single area. So that also creates a lot of stress and a lot of instability. And then there's the social distancing aspect, which also has an impact. Now it's different in different parts of the world and different cities, but it still, you know, changes completely how we live and what we know and knew as normal, what we took for granted. You know, going out for a coffee with your friends, or, you know, having a poker night, or just going to the gym and maybe meeting people there, meeting your instructor there. All these things that were in a way an outlet. You know, sometimes we needed to leave home and just breathe in different spaces. And that is healthy, you know, strengthening different relationships. But now we don't have that. So what happens? And what happens if in our home there's stress? And there's these people that are stressed because there's all this uncertainty and all this fear and all this stuff happening. So it does have a tremendous impact in the relationship. And also that has an impact. So if we're talking about a family and your partner and the kids, right? The kids are also receiving that anxiety, and kids, they act out. So they act out because they don't have the words, because they don't know how they're feeling. They can't express it. They're just noticing and sensing this anxiety. So they have tantrums, or they become extremely withdrawn. They, depending on their age, right? But they start acting out in different ways, creating more and more stress in the family. And this is a place that we can't escape from, right? Or if we live alone, sometimes I'm forgetting to, you know, it's 4:00 and I'm just having lunch. So I don't take care of myself, and I'm not connecting or doing all these things that help balance that sense of stability and being well. So what can we do to take care of our mental health? So there's two components, and I've briefly touched on them a little while ago. There's the awareness piece, just being aware of my subjective experience. But just awareness alone is not enough. It's important to give meaning, to resignify. So what does this mean to me? So let's start with the awareness piece. So awareness is noticing the felt sense. Like, how is this like for me? What is my experience? Many times, so for example, you are watching the news, and I don't know, something, of course, about COVID-19 happens, and you either you're thinking about it, you're analyzing it, you're giving your thoughts, but we don't really slow down and notice, how is this like for me? How is my felt sense of this information that I'm receiving? So beyond the information, how does this feel? And we feel in our bodies. So in order to connect with our subjective experience, we need to give ourselves a space, a time to look inside. And the more we do that, the easier it gets and the more organic it becomes. This is something that usually we haven't learned. Most of my clients, I ask, how did your parents deal with emotion? Like, did you talk about emotion? Was emotion allowed? And most of the time it's not. It's not allowed. Anger, sometimes the parents get angry. The kids can't get angry. Hurt, pain, it's not really expressed. It is, and there is this thing, oh, don't cry, oh, don't be sad. So that's socially what we've learned, like being sad and being hurt and that's kind of bad. Like, we shouldn't feel that way, right? That's kind of, somehow there's this sense that happiness is smiling all the time, and it's really not. True happiness is allowing yourself to be. And sometimes you can be sad and happy and with your sadness. So being able to give yourself a time to slow down and notice. And that is something that we are going to do today. Slowing down and noticing. So I was saying that experience in and of itself is not enough. It's important, but it's not enough. The meaning piece is crucial, because giving meaning helps you go beyond and deepen your subjective experience. And we know from research, for example, that for grief, right, to give meaning to loss, give meaning to trauma is actually it's crucial for recovery, right? It's allowing myself to feel the pain, to feel the anger, to feel all these feelings that I feel, and to give a meaning to this experience. So it's kind of what I was telling you at the beginning, right? How can a very painful experience become something that has a different meaning to me? So when we're stuck in trauma, that painful experience means I was abandoned, I was rejected, I was so scared, there was nobody there. That's the voice of trauma. When we give meaning, it's like, oh, thanks to that experience, right? Today, or I was able to grow in this way. So that pain helped me transform into this, who I am, right? So that's the meaning piece. We were talking a little bit about the meaning for the COVID, and what I'm going to say does not at all diminish or deny or anything the pain that we, what we are going through as the human race, but the meaning that this has for our planet, for our world. We can now really see the impact that we humans have on our earth. Our earth is breathing, right? So hopefully because we will come out of this and we will get past this. We will. So hopefully this can show us, teach us to be better as people, individually, with our others, in relationships, and with our world and with our planet, to be more sensitive, to be more compassionate. And with compassion, something that I do want to say is that compassion also has to do with self-compassion. That is key. So it's not only just all that I can give outside, but what I can give to myself and taking care of myself. When I can do that, and when I know myself and I have meaning of my past experiences, and I can see how all this informs who I am today, then I can be compassionate in a very different way. Okay, so what can we do in these in these times. So one of the things, I'm going to divide this in two. Okay, so there's what can we actually do with like things with our families or at home with ourselves, and then we're going to do a little exercise and experience this sense of subjective experience and awareness. So in terms of what to do, one of the things is this uncertainty that we have, right? So I was saying how uncertainty is a condition. It's a pre-traumatic condition, right? The not knowing, which might bring a lot of anxiety and fear. So uncertainty has to do with lack of predictability. That is why it's really important to have to set things at home as predictable as possible, right? So set schedules, a schedule for waking up, a schedule to go to bed. So meals are a good way to start, right? So we're going to have breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, dinner at this time. And this is something that you can expect every single day. So trying to really add activities within this schedule. And you could do like a different, trying to separate Monday through Friday and the weekend, because right now it's like that day, the other day, someday. We kind of lose track of what day it is. So really trying to give a little sense of, okay, we're entering the weekend. That means that we get to do this or that. Maybe breakfast is a little later. Maybe we have a special breakfast on Saturday or on Sunday or whatever that is. But planning something and making, say, the weekend special. So planning things and looking forward to doing certain things is very important. Not getting lost in this thing, but okay, I can plan this. And one thing that's really important, and that has to do with connections, right, is creating, and now we have this Zoom, and everyone is happy to do Zoom. So schedule meetings with your friends. Maybe you can schedule meetings with friends that you haven't seen for a long time. So do that. So make sure that you're doing things that you look forward to. There's arranging just frequent things, if you either with family or friends, and do it weekly. Because sometimes weeks go by and they just passed and you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't talked with my friends. At the beginning it was this yay thing, but then I haven't. Continue doing that because it's important. It's an important outlet. It's a good experience. It's good for you to not only talk with your family, but also to connect with your friends. And also try to have different activities, at home. Activities that are fun, moments that you can get everyone together. Sometimes when you have older kids, that can be a little more challenging because everyone wants to be in their own thing. And they are all kind of immersed in this technology thing, so they can get lost for hours. So bring them out and have that physical contact, that so let's get together and we're going to play cards, or we're going to play whatever it is that you like playing, right? And put that in your schedule. So maybe you can have Friday night plaything, or you can have whatever Saturday movie night and with popcorn or pizza or whatever, but plan these things with your family, with your kids. So make that part of this schedule. Playing, laughing. I can't stress enough the power of laughter, and just going out for a little bit, breathing, connecting with nature, all those things, Now, one thing that's really important, as I'm saying, to plan and to do all these activities, all these things that right now we're talking about, things that connect and schedules and organizing. It's really important after we have one of these experiences to slow down and notice. Many times, and we do this a lot, with negative experiences, so when something bothers us, makes us mad or frustrates us, we think a lot about it. We chew it, right? So you're mad, and then you're talking, how could they do this or say this, and blah, 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 and you're going on in your head, and it goes on and on and on. And depending on what it is, it might even wake you up at night because you're just going on and on and on, and you're feeling the anger, you're feeling the stress, you're feeling this desperation or whatever it is. We do that with the negative. But with the positive, we don't chew on it. When we have a moment of connection, when we have a positive experience, we don't chew it. So it's important to chew it. So notice how that feels, how it feels to feel happy, how it feels to feel laughter, how, that desire to laugh, that lightness in your body, that sense of connection with others. If you're, be it with your kids or be it with friends, just feeling their love for you and receiving it and noticing it. So that is kind of the subjective experience when I was saying slowing it down and letting it in is so, so, so important. So focus on the positives too and let it in. Our mind has, it's called the negativity bias of our brain. It does have a negative bias, and this is for survival reasons. So there's nothing wrong with anyone that does this. We all do it. The thing is that if we are aware, right, that we do this, so we purposefully take the positive experiences and also really make them big. Remember that every time that you're being aware that you're having an experience, right, there's certain parts of your brain, there's certain neurons that are firing. And when neurons fire at the same time, they wire, right? So it's like when we do this with the negative stuff, right? All these things that bother, all these things that da-da-da-da-da-da. Imagine those neuronal pathways just being reinforced and reinforced and reinforced, and they become like, it's like, the river, when it creates this pathway and it just goes that way, right? So then it's easier for you to go that way, right? So by just being aware, bringing your attention to moments that feel good and noticing that felt sense in your body kind of creates a different streamline that you can start using more and more and more. Okay, so I would like for you guys to find a very comfortable place. So today we're going to do a little part of an exercise. We're going to add to this every week. But it's this notion and the developing this experience, the subjective experience, and how we can put our attention and learning and practicing to move our attention to different senses in our body, and how that makes us realize some interesting things. So today I'd like to start with our hearing. So if you can just sit very comfortably wherever you are, and I'd like for you just to notice all the sounds. So just focus your attention on the sounds. Let sounds fill your awareness. And now, very gently, notice. Notice as you pay attention to sounds, how they come to the forefront of your experience. Kind of The other senses are turned off. This one, just noticing what comes in, your awareness of sound. Now gently allow your attention to go to the sensation in your face. Now you're turning your attention from an exterior stimuli to what happens inside. And just notice the muscles in your face. Notice the muscles in your forehead, your eyebrows, your temples, your eyes. Just notice your cheeks. And notice the felt sense. Notice the sensations. Now see if you can very gently notice very gentle smile. You don't have to fake one, just, and it could show up in your lips like a 10%, but it's more of this internal smile, just sense of smiling. And notice your eyes with this smile. And very gently bring your attention to your body and notice. Notice any shift in sensations. As you bring up that smile. Now for a little bit, I'd like for you to frown. So notice the difference in your body. So when you frown and you're like mad, and notice your shoulders and just hunching over. And just, and stay there for a little bit. Notice that frowning in your facial muscles, your shoulders, your back. Just frowning. And now see if you can shift your position. Just shift your back. Relax your facial muscles. Maybe lifting, your chest. Maybe your gaze goes up. And maybe you can go back to this smile. And see if you can notice a shift in your body. Like what happens in your shoulders, in your chest, in your back. Just with that smile. So very, very gently just take a deep breath with this little experience that we had. So what did you guys notice? How was it like? Did you notice a shift? Was it easy to do? How was it like to pay attention, to focus your attention? It is so interesting how the smile, just smiling at yourself, has this relaxing, it just releases tension in your body. And something that's really interesting is how we can learn to focus attention, right? You can go outside and just notice what's going on in terms of like what you're hearing. And next week we're gonna make this a little bit more complicated because we're going to bring all the different senses before we go inside to the body, right? What happens with the sight, what happens with the taste, with the smell, all the different senses, and then kind of going inside and noticing the body. It's going to be a little longer experience, but this is, if you can do this exercise like every day, just a little bit, that's great, because that is how we start developing this, you know, sense of our subjective experience. How is this like? Okay, guys. So I want to invite you for next week. We are going to have another meeting in next Friday at the same time. And we're going to continue building on this, you know, how do we connect with our mind? How do we have this sense of subjective experience and meaning? But we're going to go kind of one step further, not only in the exercise that we're going to do, but what we're trying to do, it's called integration, right? When we go to our survival mode, when we get too angry, when we lose it, right? We lose the integration in our brain, our thinking brain, or rational, or social, or the brain that's activated right now gets deactivated for survival reasons. So we have to create this integration to be able to respond in a calmer way, and also to be able to know ourselves and relate with ourselves and respond to ourselves and to situations and in relationships better and in a different way. So I really hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you again next week. We're going to have five more of these weekly meetings, and I'm always open. You can text me, you can call me. I'm going to stay for a little bit if you want to chat. If you have some questions or anything that you'd like to talk about.
This was the best webinar I had. Thank you.
Oh,
the best webinar. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll come back next week.
Wonderful. I look forward to seeing you, Karu.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much, Carol.
You're welcome, Fabi. Have
You're
a
the
great time.
best.
Good luck with the kids.